Winning the Champions League just once is a monumental achievement by itself, but winning two back-to-back is an elusive feat that has been pulled off just by a handful of teams. And one of those teams is Nottingham Forest. Yes, the same Nottingham that you see fighting off relegation was once the dominant team in Europe. By 1977, Nottingham Forest were fighting in the second division for a promotion to the first, but by 1980, they became a 2-time European Cup winners. And all this was because of a certain arrogant genius. Despite being one of the oldest teams in English football, Forest only had 3 major titles to their name, and by 1975, they were in the second division with the prospect of relegation hanging over their heads. So on January 6, 1975, the club decided on appointing Brian Clough, who had been sacked by Leeds United a few weeks earlier after a disastrous short spell. Brian Clough was a charismatic young manager who was touted to be a bit of an egoist.
Well, I ask him which way he thinks it should be done, we get down to it, and then we talk about it for 20 minutes, and then we decide I was right.
There's some fella in London, England, named Brian Clough, some soccer player or something. I heard all the way in Indonesia that this fella talks too much. They say he's another Muhammad Ali. There's just one Muhammad Ali. I'm the talker. Now, Clough, I've had enough. Stop it.
Well, are you going to stop it?
No, I want to fight him.
But he definitely had the achievements to back his immutable self-belief. Before his disastrous spell with Leeds United, Clough had guided Derby to the 1971-72 First Division Championship. It was an incredible achievement considering he had to outdo Don Revie's Leeds United and Bill Shankly's dominant Reds. Though his tactics were considered to be simplistic, his teams played a very attractive brand of football. So Forest hoped that Clough would repeat the success he had with their neighbours Derby County. They were in 13th position when he arrived, but they finished 16th by the end of the season. And in his first full season with the club, Forest finished 8th in the second division. So despite failing to promote the team to the first division, the club's management chose to stick with Brian Clough. They brought in Peter Taylor as an assistant manager, who had previously worked with Clough at Derby County. He was a valuable addition to the team as he excelled in talent recruitment. Now with the old duo back together, they took Forest to new heights. They won the 1976-77 Anglo-Scottish Cup. However, many didn't consider this trophy to be all that important, but Clough had this to say regarding the matter. Those who said it was a nothing trophy were absolutely crackers. We'd won something, and it made all the difference. And finally, after 3 attempts under Clough, Forest managed to be promoted to the first division by the skin of their teeth. With first division football now on the horizon, Forest signed a few players. In came Kenny Burns from Birmingham City for £150,000. Clough wasn't a big fan of him due to his alleged problems with alcohol and gambling, but Peter Taylor vouched for him. Another player who joined Forest was Archie Gimmel from Derby County, who had already worked under Brian Clough. And their final signing was the national team goalkeeper Peter Shilton for £325,000, which at the time was the highest fee ever paid for a goalkeeper. So when people asked regarding Shilton's eyebrow-raising price, Taylor responded by saying, "Shilton wins you matches." Many people expected Forest to be relegated, but Forest stunned everyone in the opening game of the season as they beat Everton 3-1 at Goodison Park. After being impressed by their performance that day, legendary Liverpool manager Bill Shankly came into the Forest dressing room and encouraged the players to go on and win the title. And against all odds, Forest did exactly that. This made Forest only the 3rd team in history to win the first division immediately after promotion, and no team has managed to do that ever since. Clough also became only the 3rd manager in history to win the first division with 2 different clubs. Forest didn't just stumble upon the title, they won with a resounding 7-point gap over the title favourites Liverpool. They were also defensively very solid, as they only conceded 24 goals in 42 games, and Kenny Burns, who was at the heart of the defense, was named the FWA Player of the Year. Beyond the league title, Forest also got the better of Liverpool in the League Cup final, where they beat the Reds with a single penalty goal. Clough finally repaid the trust of the Forest hierarchy by winning 2 major titles, but the best was yet to come. In the following season, Forest kicked off their season by beating Ipswich Town 5-0 in the Charity Shield, another title for the collection. But Clough had his eyes set on the European Cup for the longest time, and he got the chance to have another crack at it, as Forest's title win the previous season gave them an automatic qualification to the European Cup. But the task immediately became a mountain to climb, as Forest were drawn with the winners of the previous 2 campaigns, Liverpool. Liverpool were the clear favourite as they were flying in the league. On the other hand, though Forest weren't losing games, they were drawing the majority of them, and as a result, they quickly fell out of the title race. But in Europe, Forest were a different team. They beat Liverpool 2-0 in the first leg at home. And in the reverse fixture, despite Anfield's intimidating atmosphere, Forest grinded out a goalless draw to secure their place in the second round. Greek side AEK Athens, who were managed by the legendary Puskás, awaited them next. But Clough's team made light work of the tie, as they won with an aggregate score of 7-2. While their European form was stellar, the same could not be said about their league form, and by December, Liverpool ended Forest's 42 games unbeaten run in the league, a record that stood for decades before it was broken by Wenger's Invincibles in 2004. Due to their lack of firepower up front, in February of 1979, Forest signed Trevor Francis from Birmingham City for £1 million, making him English football's first £1 million transfer. But as he was cup-tied, he couldn't feature for Forest in the cup games, so Forest would have to try and win both competitions without their newest addition. In the quarter-finals of the European Cup, Forest faced Swiss side Grasshoppers, who eliminated Real Madrid in the second round, but they were no match for Clough's team, as Forest won the tie 4-1 on aggregate. And Forest successfully retained the League Cup after beating Southampton in the final. Clough's European dream got closer and closer to becoming a reality as they geared up to face German champions Cologne in the semi-finals. But the dream quickly turned into a nightmare as Cologne took a 2-0 lead in the first 20 minutes at the City ground. However, Forest proved their credentials after coming back to lead the game 3-2. But in the final minutes, Cologne scored a goal to nick the draw. Due to the 3 away goals, Cologne were the favourites to make the final when the game kicked off in Germany, but Clough's men secured a 1-0 victory to book their place in the final. Swedish side Malmö awaited Forest in the final, and for a change, Forest were the favourites going into the game, and their chances of winning the European Cup increased highly as star striker Trevor Francis was eligible to play in the final. The only goal of the final was scored by none other than Trevor Francis himself, which secured Forest and Clough their first European Cup. Clough delivered what nobody in Nottingham ever dared to dream. In the following season, Forest had the chance to add another trophy to the cabinet as they faced Barcelona in the European Super Cup. Clough's men beat Barcelona 2-1 on aggregate, but their league form took a nosedive as they found themselves in the bottom half of the table by Christmas. However, their European form remained as superb as it was the previous season. They successfully eliminated Swedish side Oster, Romania's Argis Pitești, and Germany's Dynamo Berlin to reach the semi-finals of the European Cup yet again. It was a tough semi-final as they faced Dutch side Ajax Amsterdam. However, Forest beat Ajax 2-1 on aggregate to reach their second European final in a row, but their opponents in the final were their toughest opposition yet. Kavenk against Hamburg had already trashed Spanish giants Real Madrid in the semi-finals, so they were the clear favourites going into the final. To add salt to the wound, Forest lost star player Trevor Francis due to an ACL injury. Despite being the underdogs, Forest took the lead early in the game. However, after that goal, they held on for dear lives as waves of Hamburg attacks came over and over again. But their goalkeeper Peter Shilton showed everyone why they paid so much money for him. He produced an all-timer goalkeeping performance in a European final, and as a result, Forest were able to hold on to their 1-0 lead, and eventually win the European Cup for the second season in a row, which made them one of a handful of teams who successfully retained the European Cup. Expectedly in Brian Clough fashion, he had this to say after the victory: "You win something once, and people say it's all down to luck. You win it twice, it shuts the buggers up." With their win in the previous year, Forest achieved the unimaginable, but with this, Clough's men achieved the impossible, from second division football to back-to-back European titles in a span of 3 years. Clough and his players etched their names in the Forest history books forever. Brian Clough went on to stay at Forest for another 13 years. Though he won them another 2 League Cups, he wasn't able to recreate the magic his team displayed in his first 5 seasons in Nottingham, and by 1993, Clough retired from coaching at 58 years of age. Despite Forest being relegated in his final season at the City Ground, the fans paid a heartfelt tribute to their greatest manager ever. No matter how it ended, what Clough did with Nottingham Forest will be remembered as one of the greatest achievements for years to come.